Welcome to We Know Marketing We Promise. I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Naoma, and this is a show about how to actually build a brand that works. Well, welcome back. We are talking about probably something that gets brought up in conversation on a weekly basis for me, which is personal branding, authority building. Is it something I really need to be doing? Is this really worth it? Or I don't know how to post or don't know what to post.
Yes.
So today we're going to kind of be breaking down why you need to be building authority to further your business and scale your business.
Yes. Building authority as your own self, as the business owner, but not necessarily your business needs to obviously be building authority as well. But today we're mostly talking about you as the CEO or owner.
Yeah.
How to build authority that then you leverage into your business.
Yeah. I think one of the things that people come to me and they are like, I don't know how to do this, is because they try to talk about all the things that they do, or they try to not talk about their personal life, and then everything just feels like a sales pitch, right?
Yeah.
Book me for this. This is what I do. Book me for that. And so the good authority is a mix of things. So it's a mix of selling, but it's a mix of sharing your personal life so that people get to know you as the owner and value, and people do business with people. And then also actually authority building. Do you know what you're talking about? How do you think? Why? How are you different from other people in your market that think this way?
Yeah. And if there's no downside, then the upside doesn't look that strong. So if you're just coming in all the time with this upside with authority posts, I would say authority is equally you sharing your expertise and being vulnerable and sharing where you've failed.
100%.
Because you have no trust with anyone if you don't have, and how do you build authority?
Well, I think there's psychological,
yes.
I mean, you're the psychology major here, but there's some data that says if you are too perfect online, nobody believes you or nobody trusts you. So, and we see that, I think we say this in every single episode, the currency of business is trust. So being able to be vulnerable and show things, but not just post to show you crying, but what is the story? How are we landing the plane? How are we tying it back to your industry? How are we tying it back to being a business owner? What is that? This is not just trauma dumping online. Please don't do that.
No, and you actually have to get through your trauma with a professional before you can vulnerably post certain things on social media. I really do believe that, because otherwise you don't know where that line is. And what I've seen from a lot of people that haven't worked through their stuff with a professional, then social media becomes that outlet, and then you're really diluting your brand, in my opinion, and you're losing trust and losing that authority.
Yeah.
But you don't really see that you're doing it because you're obviously blinded to it. And so we say this all the time too, there's a side of running a business that you have to confront the demons that live inside of you, that you have to work through stuff personally. You have to work through the trauma you've been through from your childhood. Those things, they come up, and if you haven't worked through them, you almost don't know how to communicate properly in business meetings, on sales calls, on social media, when you're posting about yourself. So do the work there, and then you'll kind of start to understand what is your threshold on what you're willing to share. And it always needs to tie back. You don't need to just share,
this is my dog. Please don't do that.
Yeah, there needs to be purpose and intention behind everything you're posting, because if you're trying to build something, you're trying to move towards somewhere, there are going to be posts that either derail you or keep you on that trajectory.
Yeah.
And I say that all the time. That's why you need a document that outlines it. Because even for my own self, I'm I know strategy well, I know myself well, I do feel like I'm pretty self-aware, I've worked through my stuff, but I still have moments where I'm I want to post this really random thing that makes no sense to my brand, and then I have to take the idea back to my strategy and say does this apply, where does it apply, and what's the point? And then if it gets a pass, then it can move into being posted. But
yeah. So
one
thing that I've kind of talked about in brand club with people that are I want to share this story, and because it's an origin story. Like, this is why I got into this industry. This is why I started business. And people love those stories.
Yes.
But sometimes we need to edit. Like, we need to edit it back, not
Yes.
change it, but edit it. Why are we saying this story? How is the story? Like, where is that inflection? And I think so many people start to treat it as like Dear Diary, when it's really, how would you tell me this story when we were sitting over margaritas?
Yes.
How would you tell me that? That's how you should be posting it. But then also, why are we doing this? What's the
Yeah.
end goal? What's that? That's where I tell people you got to land that plane, because if not, it's just still like zooming around up in the atmosphere, and it did nothing for you.
Yeah. And you might be connecting it to the end, but the person reading it isn't.
Yeah.
So you might have in your mind how you got there and it's like very clearly understood, but you have to understand they're not thinking the way you're thinking on a daily basis and not doing your job every day. And so you need to land the plane, even if it feels like common sense or redundant.
Yeah.
Or almost like stupid to say. It's not. And that's where I always tell people, like, it feels a little cringy because when you start posting and you start building authority on these platforms, because you are having like, you're having to meet people where they're at. And so you are probably talking not dumb, but like you wouldn't necessarily, I wouldn't connect a certain dot if I'm having a personal one-on-one conversation with you, but because of all the people that follow me on LinkedIn, like I am going to land that plane and connect that dot back to like the reason I posted, the photo or whatever whatever it is. And so I think people can feel the awkwardness and the cringiness and the tension of just not really wanting to be out there.
Yes.
But if you can work through that, it does go away.
Yeah.
It does go away.
It does. I will say, so I kind of want to go back, because a lot of people are like, I just don't, this feels really awkward. I'm posting a lot, or I'm kind of posting. There is a strategy, but I can't get over I want to share the rest of my life too. Like, I want to share my animals and my children and how do I stay in that lane of what I do? That's something that people ask me a lot. I'm curious to hear what you would answer, and then I can tell you what I say.
Yeah. So they're coming to you and they're saying like they want to post just a picture of their dog.
Yeah, they're like, well, I liked posting the personal brand stuff, and I like posting about my business, but they come at it from, I fear I'm going to be too salesy, so I feel like I need to add humanity back into my post by sharing things about my dog, sharing things about like me going on this trip with my family. Like, they kind of tie back in, and they're just adding more clutter to the voice, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, in the way that the algorithms works, like you want to be really careful. If you're sharing a picture of your dog, like that's great, but why are you sharing the picture of your dog? And remember, these algorithms are crawling every single thing you say on these platforms, and they're pushing people to the brand or they're pushing people away from the brand based on what they're searching and what their behavior is online. And so if you're running a CPA firm and you're doing really well with 3 posts a week and you're talking about you're educating, and then you're posting something from behind the scenes of your business, and then you're sharing a client win from the week that was just so encouraging, and then the next Monday you do a post about your dog and you're like, this is Dorothy, my dog.
Isn't she cute?
Isn't she cute? Then it's done. But like, there's always a way to tie it back in because you are running your business.
Yeah.
And so post the picture of your dog, but like talk about why. Like, how does that tie in? And what did your dog make you think about today that tied something into business or work-life balance? Or like there is always a connecting point, especially with personal things, because if your business really is all of who you are, which is what I feel, I have so many things with my family that tie into business. I have so many things, with animals and capacity. And like, I mean, I was even thinking how I had 2 cats and a dog at one point when I was married, and then I was a single mom and I did not have the capacity for that anymore. And I needed to give that away. Like, I can talk about knowing different seasons. And as a business owner, we go through the different seasons. So there has to be something there that connects back to your audience. Otherwise, you don't need to post it, but you pretty much can always connect it back.
Yes. So I agree. I think you can always connect it back. I do think that you and I are storytellers, and people don't always know that. Like, don't always know how to tie it back. I think that's something that you're kind of like, it's a muscle that you train over time after you keep posting. So if you're just starting, you're like, I have no idea how to tie it back. don't post it.
Or you have a strategy and you ask AI with, here's my strategy and here's my picture of my dog. I really want to share this because I feel like I've been so business and serious on social media lately. Help me tie this back into one of my core
strategy. Yeah.
values. Or,
That's a great tip.
I
That's a
mean,
great tip.
I have people do that all the time.
What I told them was, I said, if you are, kind of jump scaring your audience by going so hard in business, then sales, and why you're in business, and then it's like, here's a picture of my dog that has nothing to do. That's a little bit of a jump scare, and people are trying to follow you to build authority and to get to know you better, to get tips from you, to get whatever, and then you post something that has nothing to do with your business or nothing to do with why you're posting online, and it feels disjointed, and it's like, oh, is this now a dog channel? Is this like, there's
Yeah.
that. And what we want to do is we never want that feeling to happen. We never want people to be like, what's happening now? Why are we doing this now? Because it takes so long for you to start to compound that authority, that doing those little things every so often will start to kind of work against all the work that you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just from like the human perspective. I'm also obviously thinking of the
Algorithm.
platform
Yeah.
and the algorithms and AI and all of that.
Yeah.
And so I do caution people. And that's why if you can do nothing else, get a strategy in place so that you have you have a lens to push everything through.
Yeah.
And it either gets a yes or a no from that.
For sure.
But I mean, yeah, AI can be such a great tool if you have that groundwork and you have that foundation. And I'm a lot of times lately, as I've been talking to people about personal brands and their strategy and everything, they're like, well, that just feels so forced. And it's like, well, it's not if you can find like a couple of connecting points, because people love to see that you have a dog and people love to see that you have a family and they love to see that you take vacation, but there needs to be a reason why you're sharing about that. So it's not to stay away from the human side completely in your personal life. It's just to connect it back. And I think it's very, very important to actually share those things.
Yes.
Because people don't share those things enough, and then they have no authenticity and no one connects with them, or it feels like, a billboard that's on their LinkedIn page every day and there's no connection and relationship being built.
So when I did the brand lab with Chris Joe, he kind of broke down a little bit of the percentages. So he said, if you are over 10,000 followers, 80% of your content should be personal and 20% should be educational. Because you're getting at the point where people know you, they know why they're following you, they know what authority space you have in the industry, that sort of thing. If you're under that percentage, like under that benchmark, and this is a very big benchmark, but if you're under the 10K followers, whatever, then it should be 80% authority building content about your industry, education, why I think this way, and 20% should be personal. But he did say it's very important to have the personal in there because, but my pushback is like, if you don't know how to tie that personal back into like why you're doing it, don't post it yet until you start getting comfortable posting and getting out there and being able to be visible.
Yeah.
I will say one thing that this has come up for me just like in this last year is I've been posting consistently for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years now. And I feel like I'm getting at a level where things are getting visible and I'm getting recognized, and it's kind of surreal to be in that moment, but also your nervous system has to deal with being able to be visible and being able to be like that open online, right? And so I've been doing a lot of behind the scenes work on like my own nervous system and being okay with being visible and being out there and saying the things that I say, being on this podcast and being so candid, because I also don't want to be like, yes, I'm building authority, but it's all under a mask. And so that's also something to take into consideration, kind of what you were talking about. Like you need to go into therapy to kind of sort through some of that stuff out. If not, it's going to like bleed out, and you're going to use LinkedIn as your therapist, which we do not recommend at all.
No. Please do not use LinkedIn as your therapist, or ChatGPT for that matter.
Or ChatGPT. Please don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a good thing to point out too, because that allows you to continue to build authority on LinkedIn. And if there are certain things that make you uncomfortable with being visible, and you feel vulnerable, and that feels scary, and that's causing you to live in like this fight or flight, like you have to work through that. Otherwise, you won't be able to continue on. And so I think that's a very important piece, because there are going to be different things that come up as you're building authority as a business owner, and you're going to have to deal with them as they come along.
Yeah.
And that's one of the hardest things to do, because you get through something and you feel like you're in a good place and you're kind of coasting, and then something else happens and you're like, oh, I don't want to go back and do this again. I don't want to go back and do the work again. But you have to do that, because that is life. And you want to always keep growing too. Like us as entrepreneurs, like we're wired differently, and we do desire to keep growing. And so when we get in our own way and disable that, it can be very crushing. And so I'm glad that you pointed out even that personal side of it. But that's not something that you're maybe even ready to share on LinkedIn yet, about like, I'm regulating my nervous system with visibility, and like you might not be to the place where, like, there's been stuff I've worked through with.
Well, for me, I'm like, I have no problem. I mean, obviously I'm saying it on this podcast, but for me, it's like, what is the purpose of me posting that on LinkedIn? Like, going back to like, what is that purpose? There's really not a purpose to share that. Now, if somebody asks me, happy to talk about it, but it's not part of I'm not a therapist. I'm a brand therapist, but not that kind of, don't call me for your
mentioning like the hard things of running a business. Like, I do think that that's kind of a pillar that you hit on a lot. Like, it is hard to run a business, and mentally on yourself, like you have to work through stuff. And so I'm at that point where I'm working through another layer of things, which is regulating my nervous system. Like that would be the point back to it. But
like, did you see my Street Fighter post today?
I haven't seen it yet. Can't wait.
I talk about how running a business is like when you were playing Street Fighter and you're one character and the computer is the same character that you were, but they're better at it than you because you're just smashing buttons. That's what running a business is. It's you versus you, but your brain is better at controlling you.
That's so true. I never played that game, but now I understand it.
Oh my God, I feel so old.
Never played it, never heard of it. That's why I was like, no clue what Street Fighter is.
On Sega? Okay, well, if you know, you know.
All I played was Sonic on Sega.
Okay, at least you played Sega.
I had a Sega. Yeah, we had a Sega.
Okay, but back to authority. The reason I also harp on authority so much is because it just makes sales so much easier. It builds trust so much faster than the authority of a business brand that's behind a logo. As somebody who designs those are important, but if the CEO or the owner is active and posting and sharing thought leadership and sharing authority and what in their space, it makes it so much quicker to make sales.
Yeah, it does. And I think there's, back to the internal side, there's an internal layer that it's also growing. And like, for sales calls specifically, you can show up a little bit more confidently because you're writing content on a weekly basis or monthly basis, however you do it. Yeah, sharing about what you do. And I'm like, man, I really do know my stuff. And then I go and look at client analytics so that I can put together a LinkedIn post to kind of talk about a win that we had. And it's like, oh man, I really do know my stuff, and our strategies are working really well. And sometimes you get so bogged down in all the negativity. And I mean, I laser focus in on the problems in my business. And so to be able to lift my head up a little bit and look at the wins and look at my expertise before I get on a business call is so important to the success of that business call. Because if I get on there and I'm just like pouty and sad and think I suck, then I'm not going to speak with very much authority, and I'm definitely not going to have the clarity of mind to share what I need to share with them. Yeah,
I will say writing on LinkedIn so consistently for the past few years has made me really be able to think about how I really do perceive my own industry, what problems I see in my own industry, and to form my own like manifesto around it and be able to explain, this is why we do this. This is why we do that. This is how we're different from this. This is what I believe. This is what I don't believe. And this is how it'll affect you. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I could have done that if I had not been posting so consistently and learning by, like, for me, writing is like almost a conversation with myself. So what is it that I truly believe, and let me get it out of myself and then go back over and be like, yeah, that, holy crap, I actually know what I'm doing.
It gives you clarity for
Yeah.
sure. That's like what I was hearing. And another thing I was thinking about when you were sharing that is, oh man, I just lost the thought. I hate when I always want to be like very present in hearing what people are saying. And so if I have a thought, I try to push it out so that I'm like listening to everything you're saying, but then sometimes I forget things.
Same.
And my 5-year-old cries about this because she'll be like needing to tell me something. And we have a rule where she puts her hand on me and she'll be like, it left my mind. It's gone forever. That's how I feel right now.
It comes back.
It does. Oh, the transition. That was what it was. See, look at that. Just
Came
because I
back.
had to share a little dramatic 5-year-old moment. The transition. So you and I have both had transitions in running our businesses and even what we do in our specialty because we've grown in expertise over the years.
Mhm.
So I started out as like a social media manager and I have grown into a social media strategist
Yeah.
that now does brand strategy on social media with social media strategy. You have gone from a designer to being a brand strategist. So I know what my transition looked like on LinkedIn with my content as
Mhm.
I'd made that social media to strategist or manager to strategist. But I'm curious, like how have you navigated going from like, you're still a designer and I
Mhm.
still, I would not actually want to be called a social media manager. Please don't call me that.
Please don't call me a graphic designer because
Good.
no.
Good. That's good. I didn't know. But yeah, what would you recommend as someone like potentially is growing in their expertise? Like how do they go through that transition?
Well, so I think I kind of really went through that last year, was like that death of an old identity, and it was very cathartic because I knew it needed to happen, but also you're shedding an old version of you, and that's also very hard to do. Um, but I was just thinking of, where is my business going? Who are we helping? How am I really showing up online? What is the thing that really like energizes me right now? And though I love design and I'm classically trained in design and all this stuff, and we still put out design, what I love are complex problems. And like that's why people should really hire me, is like they have this like weird thing that they don't know how to explain, and they don't know how to like, especially if it's like a super unsexy business. I'm like, oh, that's like my playground. So when you start to write things, when you start to get out there, when you start being visible, you start to learn these kinds of things about you that you didn't know. And so I think of just being open to, this is shifting and this is okay for me to shift in this direction. And is this where I'm really wanting to go with my business? That's where I think that vision is so important in your brand, because if you're starting to shift away from it, then you need to say, is that still the vision I want to hold or
Yes.
not? Um, but the transition is, I mean, if you're not growing and you're not becoming better, then you're dying, in my opinion. So that's just business, that's just life. Especially in business, I think those transitions happen a lot faster. So I would say don't freak out about it.
Yeah, I would just say like it doesn't need to be
This big old thing.
yeah, it doesn't need to be this structured like change. It's very similar to like if I ran into a friend that was my best friend 10 years ago, they're going to get a very different Kelsey today than they did 10 years ago. And like if you followed me on social media 10 years ago, you're so like, and I didn't like say I'm going to be different in 10 years. It's like, no, hopefully you are growing and developing
Yeah.
and becoming smarter and you're learning new things and you're connecting with new people and you're getting feedback. And so I think it's very natural for that transition to happen. And I think my answer is always just like, don't close your hands off to it and like keep it away. Like open your hands to that transition
Mm.
and flow with it with your social media content and know that it's probably going to feel a little clunky in the beginning and that's okay. But don't make it so such a thing, like where suddenly on week 3 of, week 52 or day 3 of week 52 of the year, I'm going to transition my content to start posting about brand strategy only. Like, no, that it needs to flow with what you're learning. Like,
Yeah, and naturally.
Yeah. So if you're really new into it, then share the things you're reading from the books and things that you're learning right now and like where you're currently at. And then in 3 years, you're going to be in a different place.
Yep.
And that's where I think it really has to be you. Like,
Yes.
if you are not showing up on social media as you for your personal brand because it's become this curated thing and it's really, really structured, more than likely people feel that. And I would highly suggest stopping because I have a lot of people that do that where it's like, yeah, here's my content calendar for the entire year. And I'm like, no, why are you doing that? No, you don't know where you're going to be at in December of 2026.
No.
And you already have your post planned for the
That's wild.
10th of December. I'm like, no.
That's wild, but I'm also like, wow, that is like a level of of planning that I'm kind of digging. So
I'm kind of into it, but I'm like,
no.
you don't know if you're going to be, and what I noticed, the theme, like throughout all the content was like, it was the same lesson kind of being reiterated that she had learned recently. And I was like, you're going to have 12, 2,400 more of these.
Yeah. You will.
But she was like, but I just need to make sure that something goes up every single week of this year. And I was like, I get it, but no.
I get it, but not the same lesson for 52 weeks.
No,
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say to do that for your business. Like we've gotten to a place where we want to be like within 45 to 60 days of client content even because stuff is changing so fast. They're changing so fast. And so I would say like 45 to 60 days max. And personal branding, I would maybe even say less. Like planning out because I would still probably go in and change stuff. I've gotten to the point where I'm writing most of my stuff the week before or the week of because I want fresh perspective.
You mean you're not writing it in your car like me on my notes app the day before or posting right then and there?
No, I do actually have like a planning session for it.
Good job.
No wonder that whole year's worth of content is so satisfying to you. You're like,
yeah, I write my newsletters in my notes app as my car is parked in my parking.
But I think your newsletters are phenomenal because you do that. Honestly,
no, it's because I know I think better on the fly rather than
you do, and you know yourself.
Yeah, I'm well aware.
And maybe she knows herself with the planning, but I still beg to differ.
Yeah.
So.
But in the end, I really think it's really important for you to have a personal brand and be working towards building that authority because it helps you in sales. It helps you when it's less of this, I'm trying to prove myself to the world and more of this is what I do and this is why you should work with me.
Yeah.
You become pursued rather than you doing all the pursuing, which is great in business.
Yeah. Yeah, it absolutely is. And I'll just add a plug there because I haven't said anything about video content. You should do video content for your personal brand. You should absolutely invest in it. It's worth it. It moves the needle quicker than anything else on LinkedIn. I know you're a writer, but she doesn't have the analytics from the videos because she hasn't posted them. You have the analytics for written, which is great, and you're doing great with writing. But I do think video content is so, so important for people to be getting familiar with you. And we can end on that note.
And I think that was a jab at me. So anyway, thank you. Bye.
Still love her. And that's a wrap on this episode.
If you found this helpful, hit subscribe, leave a review, or share it with a friend.